Monday, September the 3rd, 2012, and here I am down in Jersey, combining one of my Stranglers gigs and some walking. We're looking out across the bay from St Helier's. Plan this week, or for 4 days anyway, is to walk 48 miles around the coastline, which is approximately 12 miles a day, using Paddy Dillon's Cicerone guide, walking on Jersey. And touch wood, so far today, weather's pretty good. Although having said that, my luck wasn't so good earlier. Left me walking trousers at home and had to buy another pair. There's the Radisson Hotel over there, where the members of Oasis band, or Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, were staying last night. Just behind me, referred to in the text, is this bizarre frigate building, which is now a cafe, and it constitutes a remnant of what used to be West Park. Used to be a load of shipbuilding going on here at one time. And there's one of those duck carriers that you see on the Thames a lot. This undertakes trips to the castle, Elizabeth Castle out there. As I say, there's 4 days of 12 miles walking, and you can pretty much see some of the walk that's got to be done today, which is around St Aubins Bay and onto a place called hang on, I've forgotten where I'm going, just a second. That's it, La Pulente. Lots of oyster catchers down on this beach. Okay, it's around 11:45. I have to get the last bus. Last bus at 6:15. What an unbelievable situation that is. Last bus is 6:15 from La Pulente, so I need to be on that. So that gives me 6 hours to do 12 miles. Should be able to do that. That's People's Park over there on my right, across this busy road. That's where the buses picked up and dropped off to take us to the concert. Get a better shot of Elizabeth Castle here. Google it for more information. One of those exercise trails that I've seen in other seaside resorts. Trim Trail, this one's called. As described in the text, the initial section of walking is on a Jersey granite topped path. So here we have the first exercises, the bench sit-ups. Don't look particularly healthy to me. Probably get more likely to get a back injury off of this than anything else. Looking back towards St Helier, this walk should have started in Liberation Square, but as I had to go down to the town and buy new trousers anyway, wasn't too keen on going back again, which would have added a mile or two to the walk, which is already a dozen miles, and with limited time. So we'll get to see Liberation Square at the end of the walk, hopefully, when I complete the whole coast. Very mild today, around 20 degrees, mild sea breeze as well, so not ideal walking weather, I'd say, but not far from it. And as you can see, very grey, but no rain, which is the main thing. Information board here about the first tower, which again, if you can't read this, you can Google. Interesting building over there as well. Interesting marker. Millennium Project, National Cycling Network Route 1. Guess that's Route 1 on Jersey as opposed to the UK. And it says here the first tower was built, well, it isn't actually the first one built, but this one is the first one west of St Helier, built in 1780, manned by a sergeant, a corporal and a team of 10 men from the Royal Invalid Battalion. And there she blows. Quite a lot of traffic on this island considering its size. Route marker telling us we've done 1.5 miles, or probably in my case a mile. There's the old station Cath mentioned in the text, so that makes me wonder that this is probably an old railway line I'm walking along at the moment, that's now used by the train, the people's train, or whatever you call it. Most of the toilets here are in both French and English, reflecting the proximity of our neighbours. And there's quite a lot of tourists here from France as well, I've noticed. An old German war bunker opposite the old station. It's interesting that the name has changed now to St L as opposed to St H. St Lawrence? Don't know. Information board about the third tower here at Beaumont. Here she blows. Get inside the portcullis there, or whatever you call them. Not the portcullis, the window. Can't remember what you call those. For those that are interested in their ale, Forester's Arms near the third tower. It's mentioned in the text. Lots of catamarans next to the promenade. So here we are approaching St Aubins with its own fortress out there, which was built before St Helier's in the 1500s, and the text tells me that these sands used to provide an airstrip prior to Jersey airfield being opened up. So there you go. West Jersey Catholic Parish Church, and as you can see there, it's 1:15, so it's taken me approximately an hour to walk those 3 miles, and that wasn't particularly pleasant walking at all, really. The view's nice on the left, but you're walking along a busy road most of the way, so let's hope it picks up for the next 9 miles after St Aubins. I think that will be the case. Looking back across the bay from St Aubins. Looking across the other side of St Aubins and its little internal harbour from a position near a cafe called the Boathouse, just there on my left. A very picturesque town hall, I believe.
Very rich, wasn't it?
Judging by the old Jersey's. Information board here on St Aubins and its harbour.
Excellent.
Interesting information here about St Aubin Pasbaidiac. Good old Norman name, I should imagine. And views back across the harbour. It's just starting to rain again now, unfortunately. So, filming may have to stop, which is annoying because we're just getting to some of the more interesting scenes. There you go, 1 o'clock. Information board here about St Aubins Fort, built in 1542 by Sir Henry Cornish. And there is the fort, which would be walkable today if I had had the time, as the causeway is dry, tide is well out. Just starting to follow one of Jersey's green lanes with their 15-mile-an-hour speed limits. Just stood by the 4-star Somerville Hotel, hoping I'm on the right track. Interestingly, although we're in the southernmost reaches of the British Isles, field of barley here that still hasn't been cut. These green lanes are pristine, no litter, lovely solid granite walls. Jersey's equivalent to the Yorkshire dry walls, I suppose. Busy road section here with no footpath on either side, so walk against the grain, following the highway code. Luckily though, it's only for a couple of 100 yards, then you hit the footpath sign with a bin in the wood. It's unusual, isn't it? Reflection of where we are, really. Wouldn't find that in England. We're going to walk through these woods now. As I suspected, this section of the walk is going to be much more pleasant, away from the hubbub of St Helier. So you keep following the footpath with a fence on the left. Sun's out, delightful. Very pleasant mixed woodland walking in here. Scots pine, oak. Lovely aroma as well. Much easier walking on the old hips, softer underfoot, away from the granite. The woods soon thin out to bracken and gorse and some immature saplings. Remnants of a German gun there, and you can see why. Look at a view that have had years gone by over the harbour. Further memorabilia there from the war. German gun. Coming up to Noirmont, where I might have my lunch, not sure yet. Looks like it might be a bit busy. Cars are up here, so that's never a good sign. Another view of that German gun. Plenty of empty seats around here, but I think I might hold out a bit longer yet for lunch. Another gun emplacement. remembering some American Navy men who died in action. 9th of August 1944. God rest their souls. Personnel bunker. The armoured entrance door that apparently still worked after being buried under rubble for almost half a century. Just about to look at a battery number 2 gun. Here in front of me. Certainly got the bay well covered. There's Noirmont Tower, built around 1810 apparently. Another couple of seats out there I notice as well. So good lunch point really. Lovely view down there. Further fortifications as well. Following this road inland for a little way. Another battery here, I can't read the second word. Water reservoir bunker. This reminds me a little bit of Brittany, coast path around Brittany, because they've left a lot of their scars from World War II in full view as well. Unlike the British, who seem to have removed most of it, the French have left a lot of it there, and it's very spooky when you walk through these former battlefields. Well, wasn't much fighting going on here, I don't think. Mainly at sea, wasn't it? To me, it looks like ideal territory for Dartford warblers, but don't suppose we'll see any here. Not even sure if they're on Jersey. A Dartford warbler, but something I'm not used to seeing. Again, I haven't got my glasses on. What is that? It's a greenish yellowy colour. Flycatcher type bird. One to check out when I get back. Fantastic shot that. Shot looking down on Le Portelet Bay. I believe it to be anyway. Fantastic. And there's a bench right behind me, which once again would be a lovely lunchtime stop. Let me check the time. There you go. Dedicated to a special mum. Never seen one of those on a bench before. I guess the special mum must be Rosie. Maybe I won't sit here, seeing as it's someone else's special place. The old Portelet Inn, established in 1606 by all accounts. Delightful looking place. Fantastic position. Information on the board here telling us about Pulente Tower. Single story, single cell tower. It was completed in 1808. Generally known as Jean Vrin's tomb. The tide is out, I believe, but although the text indicates that you can go down across the beach, climb back up the other side, I'm going to take the alternative route via the new apartments, simply because that'll probably save 5-10 minutes, and every minute counts today, as I've got to get that last bus back at 5:45. A hotel mentioned in the text appears to be under refurbishment at the moment. Either that or it's closed down. Just about make out that sign. Pulente Common Car Park, walkers welcome. Straight ahead up this lane. Okay, so we do a left here, just before the car park, down this track. Great shots in this woodland here. I believe this is Holm Oak, according to the text on my right. Pulente Common Nature Reserve. Excuse me. Here we go, Pulente Common Nature Reserve. Little circular tour here, affording some good views apparently. I think you can see which way the wind blows here. And just in the distance beyond it, there's a hawk in action. See if I can get him. Gone. Views across St Brelade's Bay. With more reminders of the war in the foreground. Delightful section of heather here. Look at that colour. Lovely. The other side, looking across at Noirmont and Pulente Bay from the other side. Fantastic view that is, eh? Very Mediterranean. And with that old biplane flying over, we could almost be in World War II again. Impressed with this heather. Lovely this time of year. Perfect plant for a drying climate, global warming. And over there on my right, just right for the bees. Further fine views of La Côte du St Brelade. Or St Brelade's coast. Fantastic. Delightful cliff top walking as well. Look at this path. Lovely. Trying to find the solitary whitewashed cottage in the text. Now, should I cut myself open and need a stop the flow of blood, plenty of cobwebs here. Look at that, amazing. There she blows, the solitary whitewashed cottage. What an amazing position that is. The view over the bay, huh? I wonder what kind of services it's got on tap though. Fantastic view this is over St Brelade. Look at that. Look at the sand, fantastic. And the air, delightful. Lovely smell of seaweed up here. Offset by the lovely colours of heather, gorse. Now what I need is a chair. This is going to be my lunchtime stop. If I can find a seat. A rock will do. Plenty of these old fortifications here, look. Now this is what it's all about. National Trust for Jersey, 1978. What a fantastic gift. Hey, where a seat doesn't exist, I'll make one from this old gun battery. So lunch is being had. Okay, just while I'm taking lunch, I notice that the airport's not too far away now. Got the old control tower over there. It's quite a busy airport. Anyway, lunch has been had. It's about 3:10 now, so about 5 more miles to walk. Should be done by our 5 touch wood. And what a delightful vista that is for my lunchtime stop. Absolutely delightful place for kids. Miles of sand, safe. Brilliant. Walking down the wooden steps, which I missed initially, so be careful of that. They're easily missed. Walking down the wooden steps past this granite fascia. That's where we were a few minutes ago, up on high. What delightful cliffs these are. Get a better view of the expanse of sand now. Here you can see the ongoing battle, sea versus granite. And of course, over time, sea will always win, no matter how hard granite is. Delightful smell in here, love that, invigorating. Mission board here opposite the Beach House restaurant, telling us about varieties of fish and crabs and shellfish that can be caught and their sizes. It's a view of the Jersey Tower coming up to the wooded area known as Le Quen. Looking back at where I was a moment ago with that white house up on the cliff. Amazing view that's probably got. And here you can appreciate the size of the beach really. Goes out for yards, hundreds of yards. Fantastic. Well, I mentioned the Dartford warbler earlier. And apparently it is found here on Grosnez Common, but can't say I've seen any yet. Amazing bit of German engineering there. Actually built into the cliff. Very James Bond-esque. Further view back from whence I've come, and views across the bay. Just past Britain's finest Christian hotel by all accounts, the Biarritz. Didn't know there were any Christian hotels, but there you go. Information board here about St Brelade's Bay. Getting a bit grey now, but as long as it doesn't rain. There's the church over there, from whence the final couple of miles is done. A rather pleasant little resort. Entrance to a rather formidable looking St Brelade's church. Amazing church. Interesting style. Massive graveyard. Further views of St Brelade's church, who was the son of a Cornish king apparently. This church dates back to the 12th century. Now my dilemma is it's 4 o'clock. I need 2 hours to complete the walk to La Pulente, and I haven't got 2 hours before the final bus. So, decision needs to be made. Views from the church across the bay. What a delightful little place this is. Touch up on St Aubins, I'd say, simply because of its remoteness. Interesting message in French there in the Lich Gate. So I can continue to walk because I was looking at the Sunday bus timetable. I thought it finished a bit early, and there is a bus at 20 to 7, which enables me to complete the section for today. Coming out of the Lich Gate, footpath to Beauport per the text, which is up that way somewhere. Interesting, even in 1948 they were using French. Nouveau cimetière consacré 1948. In St Brelade's Bay behind. Branch off from the road here. 20 minutes, please keep to the path. Up here. Well, little did I know that I'd be getting these even better views of St Brelade's. Look at that, eh? I've walked all along that. Right from over there on that cliff. Lunch point. It's just starting to spit again, unfortunately. Still, as you can see, there's sunshine out over there, so I'm sure it's just a temporary blip. Hope so. More of that lovely gorse as I'm above tree level here. Certainly an oak with a different leaf. It's definitely recognisable as oak, but not something I see on a regular basis on the mainland. Hence the name Holm Oak, I guess. And there's one of its unusual looking acorns. It's not clear from the text. I think this is the point where the path divides down to the bay, if you wish to visit the bay that way, whereas the standard route, I believe, is this way on the right. That's certainly the basis I'm working on anyway. According to this stone here, I should have taken the lower path, so just as well I've got an opportunity to rectify that by going down this lane. There's the option of going down to the beach, as I'm now stood in the car park at Le Beau Port. And I bet it certainly is. Let's have a look. Another gift to the people of Jersey. Another one of those amazing solitary buildings all on its own there. No information board, as mentioned in the text, about the nature reserve here, Le Creux. And that's why it's called Le Beau Port. Look at that, lovely. Little private party going on over there. Mainland of France is clearly visible in the far distance. Views down on Beauport. And that house over there has got an amazing view. Nice little walkway down to the beach as well. Clear example here of the granite losing out to the sea, as it will do in the end. Back at Beauport, then across to St Brelades. What a delightful stretch of coastline, eh? You could film this 100 times and not get fed up with the view. That really is a good geography lesson down there. How to smash up granite, break it down, turn it into sand. Brilliant. So here's the stout marker stone mentioned in the text, Les Grosses Têtes, the big head. No indication of height up here, but we're certainly a good 200 or 300 metres up, I'd say. Who needs the Mediterranean on days like this, huh? Do like these granite signs. Amazing coastline scenery. Gorse and bracken everywhere. Amazing how it doesn't encroach onto the footpath. What a glorious afternoon it's turned out to be after this morning's greyness. Delightful. Autumnal. Let's hope this is our Indian summer finally. So I understand shortly we are forced inland a little bit by the presence of Jersey's prison. Yet another bunker. Germans certainly had the ports well covered. Get a view there of the prison through the trees. 5-star facilities by the looks of it, very modern. Just leaving les lieux de Fiquet, which I think means Fiquet's places. You have it. HM Prison La Moye. About to follow the stony footpath across La Londe du West, SSI. And you can hear that we're not far from the airport here. Of course, it's just crossed my mind that that Polish guy will now be serving his 6 years or so inside that prison for murdering a local. Not sure what that was all about, but sign of the times that the Poles are now over here. The meteorological tower mentioned in the text. Leaving Jersey's prison behind. Whilst over on my right, an old German fortification in very good order. So much so that it's now being used as a modern day mobile phone mast by the looks of it. From this angle it reminds me of those odd golf ball type communication towers that used to be on the Yorkshire moors. The American listening devices. Lovely purple colour that is. Not sure what that is, it's not heather. Some kind of moss or lichen. One for my new book. That apparently is Jersey's desalination plant, which makes sense. Surrounded by water. Maybe it's what we should be doing in the eastern half of the country in England, if they can't get their act together and navigate the water around the place. Interesting. Yep, the desalination plant with a load of excess water flowing out back into the sea. Climbing beside this strange narrow gauge railway which goes down into that old fortification there. Clearly it's not used very often because loads of overgrowth there. Maybe it's a relic of the war. Interesting old buildings up here. God knows what that was used for. And likewise this one here. Maybe they're in keeping with that little track railway, and this used to be some kind of quarry area. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Okay, I've just walked down along this path here, and there I am, shadow of. But Paddy Dillon refers to the old route, which you can clearly see the steps of over there. It used to run down lower there by the beach at La Rosière. Looks like there's even an old promenade over there as well. That old German fortification over there, according to the text, is now let out by Jersey Heritage as holiday accommodation for anyone that's interested. Let's go and have a look and see what kind of views you get from there. Still in amazingly good condition, considering it's almost 70 years old now. Interesting form of holiday accommodation though. And there's the views that you get from it. Right out to, I think that's called, the sun's against me now. I think that's called Le Nid Lighthouse, or the Nest. Le Nid. Lots of fortifications around here again. Sorry, that lighthouse is called La Corbière. And I think that pub over there in the distance down there is Le Nid. Yeah, Le Nid de Corneille. Views from a point near Corbière lighthouse across the rest of the bay where I'll be walking tomorrow, all being well, because I'm nearly at La Pulente. Got no time for modern art, but this memorial here was erected to remember the sinking of a French catamaran in 1995 whilst on passage from Jersey à Sark. Amazing, everywhere you look there's reminders of the German presence here. This one's almost underground. Okay, finally reached La Pulente. It's a lot later than I thought it would be, which is just as well as another bus in a minute. It's 6:15 now, so I've got a half-hour wait to the next bus. And I'm stood in front of one of these fountains that I've noticed a number of. Victorian. Anyway, that's a very delightful first day's walking completed. All 12 miles of it, supposedly. My stopwatch actually, my pedometer actually recorded 12.9, so we're not that far different. And I did make a couple of errors, I suppose. So, stage 2 tomorrow. Okay, here we are, Tuesday, September the 4th, back at La Pulente, or La Pulente. And today we're walking around about 11 miles, I make it. Between here and La Greve Lecq in the north, so it gets a bit more wild and rugged, hopefully. It's a bit of a grey day today, again, a bit cooler, although the weather forecast is for both warmer and brighter weather today, so perhaps like yesterday it'll clear up later in the morning, fingers crossed. I say later in the morning because it's now already 11 o'clock. And there's a bus at 6 that I'd like to be on. There's the old Condor hovercraft out there. Company I vowed never to use again because I had a row with the captain. So here we are, this is the beach scene at La Pulente. Very quiet today as the schools go back. Not sure about Jersey though, but certainly not so many young kids around on the bus, just full of older people though. That's the attraction of Jersey, I guess. Now you could walk on the beach today, but as you see a little further up it becomes a bit trickier, so I'm going to follow the path as described in the text beside the sea wall here. The path beside the sea wall certainly provides a different type of scenery to yesterday, and in places is not easy to pass thanks to these gorse bushes. Put on top of yet another German bunker here with views out to a former fort. Further views of the vast expanse of St Quen's Bay. As you can see at the minute, still quite misty. Sea thistle, looks like it. As you can see, very different terrain to yesterday in the dunes. That tower is actually called La Rocco Tower, last of its kind built, i.e. the Jersey Towers, built in 1795, used by the Germans during the occupation for target practice, and apparently nearly fell to bits, restored in the 1970s. Martellos replaced this form of tower thereafter, and as you can hear, I'm even closer to the airport now. This is Le Bray, where there's a cafe and slipway. As you can see here, bizarre landscape behind, sand dunes and grasses. Jersey flag there blowing in full breeze, very similar to the cross of St George, but diagonally crossed. Another amazing kind of plant here, no idea what it is. It's hard to find out. Some kind of lichen, I suppose. For the grass on the sand dune. Plenty of that plant about as well. And this one, which looks like it's kind of sea parsley. Yeah, I wonder. Very abundant here. Just on the edge of the airfield here, I realise. I wonder what that feature is over there. Massive concrete. And there's evidence of, right under the flight path here. Back across St Quen's Bay, tides on the turn. This seems to be the surfing area of Jersey. Loads of surfing dudes about, and appropriate motorhomes and cafes to go with them. But at the minute, it would appear that the conditions are not right. You can see Jersey Surf School here. I'm walking on a new raised sea wall here. As you can clearly see at high tide the waves break the old wall. believe that's a wheatear, as I saw one earlier. Okay, I'm reliably informed that what I've just filmed was a chat, probably a wind chat. Someone stood behind me, told me, corrected me. Now up there, on that roof, is a very small bird of prey. Again, can't identify it from here, because I haven't got my glasses in. It's one for the book, there it goes. Anyway, we had a good shot of it there, just on that eave. Amazing. Kempt Tower just coming into view, the first of the Martellos. So there's the first of the Martellos, Kempt Tower, built in 1834, and now an interpretation centre for the Lemieux conservation area, of which I'm now walking through. With all this German fortification around, it's a wonder they didn't destroy it. Well hidden and disguised German bunker there. There you get a better shot of it, whatever it is. That's it, stone or win, not sure. Nice snail shell there. Wonder if it's of the edible variety. Interesting house there in the shape of a boat. Just at a point near Lewis Tower, and that collection of greens over there caught my eye. Don't know if that's white willow. No, it's not. But mixed in with the conifer, Scots pine, I think it is. Creates an amazing contrast. Lovely. Channel Islands Military Museum here, which a bit like the one at Dover, I suppose, incorporates a whole heap of artefacts and commentaries, etc. £4 to get in. It's positioned next to the Lewis Tower here, which is another Martello built in 1835-ish, and which the Germans, as you can see, adapted at the rear there to their uses. Information board here about the Lewis Tower. Used to repel a French invasion, an attempted invasion by the Prince of Nassau in 1779. If you can make that out, just above the door is Lewis Stoner and the date 1835. Over the road from Lewis Tower, where that bus is, you've got the Jersey Pearl, which you can research on the internet for those that are interested. I find the landscape next to it more interesting. Amazing. Looking back at the vast expanse of the Quen Bay, massive. Right round to in the distance there, that island fortress, whose name escapes me. Getting more agricultural now, and as you can see over there, some Jersey Royals no doubt on the back of that truck. Must have some potatoes while I'm down here, I haven't had any yet. Combine going out into the field over there as well, very late in the season. Well, in fact it's not a combine, it's a potato picker. What am I on about? A bit easier now on this shaly type surface, away from the hard granite seawall, concrete seawall I've been following. Lovely little quiet corner we're approaching now. Approaching le Bas Etacquerel et le Grand Etacquerel. With the tide being out, thought I'd take an opportunity to walk on this lovely grey sand, cut out the corner, get over to that slipway over in the distance, regain the coast path somewhere over there, get back up on the heights again by the looks of it. I admit walking on the sand is a lot better for the hips. It's like walking on a spongy surface. Should have done that all the way really, seeing as the tide is out. And there you go, live and learn. Anyway, we're at another German bunker up here, which has been cleverly converted into a seafood restaurant apparently. Some hum of sewerage down here. It's either that or the seaweed that I'm stood in amongst. Got a tractor coming down here now, sod's law. Takeaway as well for those that need it. Cliff path the Grosnez, big neck. Other SSI, Leland. Is back across Quen Bay. We're in the most northwesterly corner of Jersey now. Can't get much further northwest than where I am. So again, would have been heavily fortified against the English here, as this is pretty much that way, facing north, Angleterre. And the sun's just beginning to poke out. It's about 12 o'clock now, so perfect. Fantastic views down on le Grand Etacquerel and across St Quen's Bay. Fantastic. And the skies have just been in the clear in time. Shame it's not fully clear, because look at that view you'd have had. Brilliant. And this is north-northwest again. Another chat, making full use of that German bunker. It's a paradise for them up here. Common feature of the coast paths throughout is that you'll see these little blue painted stones along the way, all the way ahead of me as well. Incredible. German guns still left up here, this one being Morsa 18. Wir Acht. 21 cm. Even labelled up still. Amazing. Ready to go, aimed at the British ships and Americans. And here's another one. A bit more primitive looking. Still in amazing condition for 70 years old though. There's the view these gunners would have had. Amazing. It's a bit spooky here actually, to be honest. Spiritual in some kind of strange way. Ruins. For the first time on this island thus far, got almost bog-like conditions, hence the boardwalk. Dripping down into this ravine into the sea. Fantastic tundra here. Brilliant, look at it. Really thick lichens, heather, gorse. Brilliant. And then you get the odd little German turret. Lovely colours. Approaching yet more fortifications. Amazing, there's people down on that rock face, rock climbing, or doing whatever that thing is where you dive into the sea. Forgotten the name for that. It's on Countryfile a couple of weeks ago. Amazing. A major bunker here, which I'm stood on as well. Surveying the scene. Incredible that it survived, really. Bit of a sea mist creeping in now, that little glimmer of sun we had is gone. Interesting roadworks going on down below. As usual with roadworks, I can't see any workers, even out here in the middle of nowhere. Got the castle coming into view ahead. The remnants of the 14th century Grosnez Castle, which was built to provide shelter for the residents of Jersey from frequent French attacks, was in ruins by 1540 though. Signal station at Grosnez. All accounts there were 6 rooms here, but no evidence of a well, which would not be very helpful. So there you go, information board about Grosnez Castle. They reckon the origin of the word is Norse, the grey headland. Interesting. As it's coming up 2 o'clock, this solitary seat, donated by Ralph Weiber, OBE, former senator, will make today's lunchtime stop. Not as warm and sunny as yesterday, but that's the view behind me. Sea mist coming in. That's the car park at Grosnez, and there is Grosnez. So that's my forward view. So let's get on with lunch. Okay, 2:15, lunch has been had, and that is actually the beach down at Plemont, which is my next port of call. And just through the sea mist I can feel the warmth of the sun poking through. So somewhere up there the sun's trying to come through, fingers crossed, because we've not had it as good as yesterday. There's been some spectacular views once again, but it's not raining, so that's the main thing. And straight in front of me up there I can just make out what I believe to be his sark. Plenty of resting points as we walk through the bracken and the gorse. Lovely views. Reminds me of Brittany again, this coastline. What a brilliant fissure that is over there, where the sea's got in and cracked that granite up. Cave over there perhaps. What a fantastic beach that is. Kid's dream. And there's a crowd of them over there. I wonder why they're not in school. Having a good time anyway. Path is pretty good underfoot here. Mixture of granite, stones and earth, and well used as well. I think I've passed more people today than I did yesterday. Probably because it's the older generation and they're out walking. Nice environmentally friendly footpath signs. Keep the birds happy. And they're mixed seeds as opposed to nuts. So that would encourage finches amongst others. On the final leg now, and it looks like I'm going to be finishing well early. Not sure what's gone wrong with the timings here. Yeah, it's just coming up 3 o'clock and I've got about 2.5 miles more walking to do, which is an hour, 90 minutes tops. So yeah, today's walk is nowhere near 12 miles. Anyway, information here about Jersey's northwest coast. Little picture there of the Dartford warbler. Back towards where I had lunch. You can still see the bench up there. And the path walked thereafter. Interesting, we're entering a puffin protection zone during the breeding season anyway. March to July. Didn't know there were puffins down here. Interesting information here about Plemont guardhouse, 19th century building. Was associated with a battery which in 1812 housed one 18-pounder cannon. And there it is, next to a very interesting little seat. And it seems that fortifications never really changed location much over the years, because wherever the old Jersey folk put theirs, the Germans seem to have done the same. As you can see, footpath to Greve Lecq, 2 miles. So I'm going to be finished about, crikey, 4 o'clock. Strange. I suppose it's because of the buses. if I was to continue another 3 or 4 mile, there isn't a bus pickup point. That's a problem. Not to worry, I'll have a good cup of tea when I get there. Also noticeable in Jersey, I haven't seen it anywhere else, they put these hook things into the wood to stop you slipping in the rain and the ice, if there is any ice here, whereas we'd use the wire, chicken wire or something. But these round-headed nail things, quite painful under your football if you happen to tread on one incorrectly, even with thick walking shoes on. Landscape on the eastern side of Plemont beach, which is obviously explaining why you got a load of sand on the other side of the headland, because you've got all this rock formation here diverting the waves and creating a depository for the sand. Not sure if it's coming through on this camera, but that water down there is crystal clear. Oh, having read on the lunchtime bench a little earlier that the Signor in 1961 suggested that all the coast paths and paths be reopened as they were, it's only in 1981, 20 years later, that this particular section was opened, as you can read there. Great the way they provide these seats every several hundred yards. Just couldn't do that in England because they get vandalised. Such is the world today, eh? Such a shame. Wood path is pretty clear. I was saying that Jersey hasn't got any internal rivers, but it must have some springs somewhere, because this water's flowing downhill into the sea from somewhere. What a delightful valley of ferns this is. Just enjoy that musical accompaniment from the water. Further views back towards Plemont, just visible over in the distance there. Or the headland of, anyway. Delightful, pleasant, quiet walking this is. So you can't get here with a car, that's the thing. So it's quieter. Horse corridors provide great shelter. Brilliant. And it looks like someone gets up here and prunes them. There's a butterfly I see a lot of around this walk. No idea what that is. But of course, now I've got my Collins wildlife book back in London, so I'll check that out. It's like a sort of yellow red admiral. Anyway, let's leave him resting. To me talking about vandalism earlier, but obviously the difference here is that when that bench was built, probably in the 60s, early 60s, there was a view. Now there isn't, because this sycamore has obviously taken root. Well, there's a whole oak behind it as well. They've taken root and blocked the view. Time and tide wait for no man, eh? It's a lot more sheltered round this side. We're away from the prevailing southwesterlies, and yeah, a lot more pleasant. Number of these red flags on the headlands, I notice. Each headland's got a red flag flying, and that's blowing in a which way is that blowing? It's coming from the northwest. Interesting. Now that's interesting. There's a natural pool of water there which flows into the sea, because I've just walked up beside it. Question is that man-made? Lovely blue flower there as well. Well, it's lilac-y. Wonder what that is. It's not native anyway, I'm sure. That'll be man-made. So we're probably on the fringes of some signor's large estate here. And he had that little lake built. So there you go. Just at the gates of the Clay Target Club. And over there I can hear pheasants. That's no coincidence, I'm sure. Haven't heard them throughout the whole trip. In fact, there's all sorts of wildfowl around here, so maybe I'll take that back. We're rape here. Strange how everything's a long way behind England. Long since gone over there. Greve Lecq comes into view around about 4 o'clock, as I predicted. Still no sunshine though. Looks like someone's got stuck in the sand. God knows what that's doing out there. Greve Lecq Tower. From another angle. Okay, so here we are, Greve Lecq, which has a number of meanings from literal translation. Could be the strike of the lake. No, that's near Tang, isn't it? Anyway, a greve. Another word for a beach, I think, isn't it? G-with-U. Well, as you can see, the old tractor got the old BM out over there in the corner. Wonder how that bloke feels. So it's 4:15. Just missed a bus. Next one's 5:15. Which is a tad earlier than I expected. And my pedometer's recorded around 9 miles today, which is well short of the 12 I thought we'd be doing. Anyway, I believe tomorrow's a touch longer at 14, so I'll be starting back here again, obviously. Let's hope the sun shines tomorrow. Although it hasn't been too bad today, it's just been grey. So day 2 completed. Day 3, section 3, Wednesday the 5th of September, and I'm back at La Greve Lecq, ready to do around 11.5-12 miles today to Bouley Bay. As you can see, the weather's a lot finer today, which is excellent. Although there is quite a stiff northeasterly breeze. So I might get some wind interference on today's recording. Just talking to a couple of JT engineers and expressing my knowledge of their 350 MB internet cafe somewhere in the St Heliers. And they tell me that some homes in Jersey now have a gig, 1 gig broadband speed. Just really puts into perspective what rubbish we get back home with BT. 10 MB in my case. It's a wonder I can load these films up to YouTube. Speed it chugs along at. So as you can see, we're following the cliff path out of Le Greve to Devil's Hole. Millennium stone here, just in front of the old barracks, which we'll pass in a second. Information board there about the barracks, built 1810. Earlier start today because of the bus timetables, but no worries, gives us a more relaxing walk for the day ahead, I guess. Not sure what time the bus back from Bouley Bay is at the moment, but I'll find out. It's in very good condition, this barracks, considering its age. What a lovely backdrop as well. Bit similar to the Isle of Wight in some respects with its chines. Little valleys that dip down to the sea. Fantastic weather again. Another shot of the tower as we ascend. Le Kettel Fort, built in 1936. Jersey National Trust. Information board here about it. I'm in 2 minds as whether to go and have a look. Probably a good view to be had. The remnants of it behind this locked gate, unfortunately. It's got a rather modern tile roof though. But, as you'd imagine, some fantastic views over the Greve Lecq. Delightful, huh? Colour of that water, fantastic. As you can see, the tide's in, it's quite choppy. I bet we better see Guernsey easily today. In fact, no sooner have I said that, and there in front of me is Sark. Just think you can make that out in the distance. And on the left, just visible beyond the headland, is Guernsey. Yeah, there's Sark, clearly visible. Looking back at La Greve Lecq's Iron Age earthworks there. Final glimpses of La Greve Lecq as we move away towards Devil's Hole. You can possibly hear the old rifle clubs in action today. Red flags are up. There you are, bang on cue. Very nicely wooded valley on the right as you walk up the hill. This is what it's all about today. Romanians picking potatoes. They won't want me filming them, of course. It's not a sight you'd expect to see on Jersey. An old windmill. Still, we are in quite an agricultural region, it appears. So I guess anything's possible. Just past the Jersey Pistol Club. Now looking for a sign on the left that's going to take me back onto the cliffs. Here it is. Up here. Once again, fields of barley, still uncut. Firstly, Crabby Farm and a small parking area. To the left path, i.e. not that bridle way there. Keep to this path on the left, per the text. And as usual, you'll see one of those blue markers on a rock. More Jersey National Trust land. This one, Le Don Perret. As the mist lifts, Sark becomes even clearer. Guernsey not quite so at the moment. Pretty breezy at the moment, so I'm fighting a wind here. Path along this section's well eroded, and when I think about all the people that run around this section for that 24-hour round the island run, IPEX I think it's called, or something like that, where they raise money for charity, my god, you can probably understand why it's well eroded. What a feat that is. Whereas I'm doing it in 4 leisurely days of 12 miles. They do all 48 miles in 24 hours. Some don't even finish though. Lovely examples of heather-clad cliffs with touches of gorse. Information board here about Île Agua, tidal stack, which lies off the north coast, separated from the mainland. Let's see if I can see it. Yeah, it'll be that little collection of rocks over there. Another one of those delightful little rivulets as we ascend into the dark tunnel here. Lovely, this cliff top walking. Interestingly, sign of the times, just past a party of Germans. Some irony there really. Still they're not all the same. Fantastic viewpoint up here. Out to Sark again. Coming up to the feature over there known as Devil's Hole. More erosion from the sea. Now entering an area called Les Falaises with a Z to differentiate it from the French, which would have an S. The cliffs. Interesting stagnant looking pool down there. There are some ducks down, well, I don't know if they're ducks or moorhens, but something crept into the undergrowth as I approached it. Be a man-made feature. Got concrete walls, or granite walls. Looking back at the journey undertaken thus far from the Greve Lecq. Just leaving the short wooded section prior to the Priory Inn at La Falaise. Tea time stop for those that are interested. The bus stop is also here as well. There you go. 10-minute additional walk, 20 minutes in total, plus a bit of viewing, half an hour extra to the journey time. Perfect timing when I don't need one, as is the story of my life. A bus pulls in. My goodness, what a great bit of architecture that is. Not sure which god that is. Is it Poseidon? Anyway, he's made to appear as though he's standing on a pond. In fact, he may well be. But I can't see any movement in the water. There is water, as you can hear. It's just very algae covered. So that god is cleverly made to appear to be walking on water. Entering yet another National Trust for Jersey area, Le Creux de Vie. The coastline seen from the Devil's Hole, and that's the section we've walked thus far, about 2.5 miles apparently. Okay, information board here about the Devil's Hole. Obviously that god that I saw earlier wasn't a god at all, it was a devil himself. Obviously, being a good boy, I'm not familiar with seeing that deity. Anyway, I'm sure you can research this on Google if you're so inclined. Now let's have a look at this blowhole, which is all it is really. Well, there's not even any water down there at the moment, just a snippet there in the left of the camera picture. Great home for birds up there, I'd imagine. And the view westwards. Another information board looking westwards, telling us all about the coastline. Next to this talking telescope. It's £1 if you want to have a go. And another information board telling us about the wildlife. European green lizard apparently. Fairly common in Jersey. Interesting. Just keep my eyes peeled for one of those. I'd love to see one of those before I go back. I've heard a couple of rustles in the bracken. Also around about here you get bottlenose dolphin, shag, fulmar, common thrift at Plemont, oyster catchers, peregrines and oxeye daisy. Information here about the trust using goats to graze the heaths. Sheep they use it, the sheep. They are sheep. They're Manx Lowton sheep. Sorry, not goats. Interesting set of horns they have. Looking down on the Devil's Hole viewing platform, back along the coast. Hoping to get views of France at some point today, when the mist clears or burns off, hopefully. Views back along the Vallée des Mauriers. Another view back up the Vallée des Mauriers, just where we've crossed the stream. Behind it there's a little reservoir up there. Like these bracken and gorse footpaths. Easy walking thus far. Weather always helps. What a fantastic bequest by Sir Angus Patton. Gifted the National Trust all this land. Great. Lovely little shelter that is. Surrounded by blackberries, which as you'd imagine are behind ours again. Still red here. Already turned in some parts of the UK. Anyway, nice little windbreak there provided by the gorse. Onward journey. Well, the old Manx sheep over there, taking their lives in their hands. Mind you, it's fairly, pretty much all in a day's work for them. Looks like a male. And behind them, I believe, is the Sorrel lighthouse. Might have that wrong. Yes, it is the Sorrel lighthouse. It's a lot quieter over this way. Whether that's got anything to do with the schools returning today in Jersey, or just the lack of roads up here. Don't know. There's also less evidence of the German presence as well. Probably because they didn't need to defend this side as much, because having conquered France just over the way there, their concern was obviously northwards. There you go, hidden on this side of the cliff, you've got the whole flock of sheep. Is inland over Jersey from a point near Sorrel Lighthouse, and the old northeasterly certainly keeping the temperature down. Just as well I've brought my old jacket today, despite the sun's presence, which is getting a bit weaker now, I must admit. Great shot of that headland at Sorrel Lighthouse. Not sure I'm going to bother going down there, but it's a good shot anyway. Not sure if you can see it on camera there, but two birds of prey competing for their territory. One's a buzzard. No, they lost it. One was a buzzard and one was a peregrine, I think. Through yet another lovely wind tunnel protector. Just before the car park at Sorrel Lighthouse, just come across this Millennium standing stone. Carl Hino St John, which is possibly the quarry nearby. It's a little map of Jersey with all the state flags or symbols embossed into it. Lovely. That's Sorrel Point over there, almost the most northerly part of Jersey. The most northerly part is on my right, where this quarry is Ronay Point, but this granite quarry prevents us getting anywhere near it, so I have to follow the road back inland a bit to regain the cliff path. The Rue du Nord behind me was built by 2,000 Jerseyese in preference to working for the Germans during the occupation. This is a memorial to those people. There is said road, and just behind it La Fontaine Tavern. It's around 1 o'clock, so that could be a lunchtime stop for those that are interested. I'm pressing on, despite there being a picnic site 200 metres on the right opposite that tavern. On the grassy path away from the Route du Nord mentioned in the text and approaching the TV masts, or mast, and a bit of an eyesore really over there. Views back from the cliff path just in front of the radio mast. TV aerial from another angle. Footpath marker in front of it. Looking back, it looks like Ronnay Quarry has its own little port there. Makes sense for offloading a heavy material like granite. Put it on a boat.